You ever had a complete stranger storm onto your property, wagging her finger in your face, screaming bloody murder about community values while you're just trying to unload a cooler from your truck? Yeah, that happened. Picture this. I'm standing there, half of mine still back in the city, and this woman, face red enough to scare off a fire engine, shouts at me, "Get out! Get out now!" She's got the attitude of a cop with a grudge and the lungs to match, except what she doesn't know is the lake, the land, even the cabin she's claiming is all part of my inheritance. I owned every inch she was standing on, and here she was yelling about trespassing. But let me back up a sec. Because nobody wakes up one day and decides, hey, let's take on a whole HOA armed with nothing but a briefcase, a stubborn streak, and a little legal know-how. Name's Eric, by the way. I work in property law, land rights, estate planning, all that riveting stuff that'll put most folks to sleep at a barbecue. But I'll tell you, understanding property boundaries, titles, and covenants, that's paid my bills and then some. I never thought it'd pay for my peace and quiet, though. See, about 3 years back, my great-uncle Harold, bit of a hermit, loved the woods more than people, passed away and left me his old cabin up in Pine Valley. Crystal Lake, nestled in the hills, 2 hours out of the city, used to be pure wilderness. When Uncle Harold built his place, it was one of maybe 3 shacks around the whole shoreline. I'd gone up there as a kid, fishing off the dock, watching the Milky Way spin overhead. After high school life got busy, lost touch with that side of the family, didn't think about the cabin for years. When the lawyer called, I almost told him he had the wrong guy. At the time, I was knee-deep in a nasty divorce, just trying to start my own law firm. So when Harold left me, not just the cabin, but a chunk of land around it, I signed whatever needed signing and shelved it for someday. Well, someday finally showed up last month. The divorce papers were long filed, my practice was steady, and I was fried sick of courtrooms, sick of phones, just craving some silence and a little piece of sky. I packed up my truck and drove up, expecting woods and water and the same old rutted dirt road. Except what I found was, well, let's say a little different. The road was widened now, mailboxes sprouted up, where there used to be nothing but deer tracks, and as I wound past the trees, I saw houses, big, showy, vacation home-looking palaces, lawns as manicured as a country club, private docks, and even a little marina. Uncle Harold's cabin looked the same as always, tucked in the pines logs, silvered by time metal roof, rusted here and there like it had been holding its breath, waiting for me. I was just getting reacquainted, breathing in the pine air, poking around the old dock, laughing at the weeds, swallowing the fire pit, when I heard the click of high heels on gravel. I kid you not, out comes a woman dressed head to toe in what I can only call HOA chic. Expensive casual, every hair in place, jewelry winking in the sunlight. She marched up like she owned the place and introduced herself, Karen Mitchell, president of the Crystal Lake Homeowners Association. She gave me that once-over, the kind that says, "You're already guilty," and told me I needed to explain myself because this abandoned cabin was association property now. They'd maintained it, paid the taxes, and if I had any claims, I could talk to their lawyers. I nearly laughed. "No misunderstanding," I told her. "My uncle left this to me. I got the papers if you want to see them." Her eyebrows climbed halfway to her hairline, but she kept that steely tone. "There are procedures. This is a planned community. Strict covenants, regulations, approval required. You know the drill." But when I asked her for the actual covenants and proof my property was ever part of her association, she got a little shaky, suddenly would have our management company send the packet. Meanwhile, she dropped the bomb annual dues, $12,000 a year, and since it had been delinquent 3 years, I owed $45,000 plus penalties. I asked what exactly she'd been maintaining since the place looked exactly like Harold left it. She mentioned monitoring for environmental compliance, which from the looks of it meant driving by and glaring now and then. At that point, she cut to the real chase. "If you think you can just move in and lower the tone of the neighborhood, you're mistaken. We have property values to protect." That was it, the whole show. It wasn't about the lake or nature or even the money. It was about image appearances, keeping out anyone who didn't fit their magazine spread fantasy. I told her politely as I could muster after that if she wanted to keep playing legal hardball, she could have her attorney call mine. But Karen didn't give up. Not that kind of woman. That night, sitting on the dock, beer in hand, I watched the lights come on in all those big houses. I remembered stargazing as a kid, the dark so thick you could almost taste it. Now it was like living next to a mall parking lot. My little cabin was a stubborn ghost of the past in their theme park future. The next day, I met Jessica and Amanda, two neighbors with yoga mats and suspicious smiles. They tried the community spirit angle, explained how every property was brought under the HOA, that covenants were filed with the county, so I was automatically included. When I asked if they had my uncle's signature on anything, they looked like someone had asked them to recite the Constitution. Well, not exactly, but it's public record, so it's binding. I let them talk. It was clear the whole community ran on the assumption that paperwork filed at the courthouse could just magically sweep up any land they liked, whether the owners agreed or not. I kept my cards close. Spent that afternoon calling my office, getting every title deed and survey pulled from the county records. What I found knocked me sideways. Uncle Harold hadn't just left me a cabin and a couple acres, he'd left me the whole show. 2,000 acres, including the entire lake and the land underneath every single one of those luxury homes. Turns out Harold had leased the land to developers decades ago, long-term ground leases. The fancy houses leaseholds. They didn't own the dirt under their million-dollar foundations. I did. The lease agreements were clear as daylight. The landowner, that'd be me, could use any part of the property for personal purposes. The tenants, the lessees, owed taxes, maintenance, and most important, were forbidden from interfering with the owner's enjoyment of the land. HOA had no legal say over me. If they kept pushing, I could terminate the leases, evict the whole bunch. That changed the game. Next meeting, I brought every deed, lease, and survey with me to the HOA's fancy community center. Karen had her attorney and community manager Sarah with her. I laid out the facts paper by paper. When I said the word lease termination, you could have heard a pin drop. Karen turned pale. Sarah just kept saying, "But we've always managed things this way," and their lawyer David looked like he was trying to swallow a cactus. They tried to bargain, but after the garbage dumped on my drive, the truck keyed, the sheriff called on bogus reports, and a crew sent to cut down trees on my land, I was done playing nice. I handed out formal lease violation notices to every board member and told them straight if the harassment didn't stop, the leases would be canceled. Their houses, their investments, everything, they'd lose it all. Karen screamed, called me a vagrant, threatened to have me arrested on my own land. It was almost funny if it wasn't so sad. I pulled out my phone and let her know I'd recorded the whole thing with witnesses. Suddenly, she was quiet, just staring at the boundary markers and the stack of legal docs. Reality hit her hard. Her power trip was over. Funny thing, once people saw the truth, things changed quick. Karen resigned the board, agreed to my terms, paid the $45,000 in damages, poetic justice, I know, and signed a written acknowledgement that I was the actual landowner. The new president, Robert, retired engineer, turned out to be a decent guy. The harassment stopped. The cabin felt like home again. Marcus, the tree crew boss, even brought his family by for coffee one weekend, and the forest path he cleared became my favorite trail. Now I sit on my dock, watch the sunset, and think about all the people out there who get steamrolled by their HOAs, not knowing they actually have the power if they stand up and fight. Because let's be honest, most folks just want to get along, trust their neighbors, enjoy a little peace. But when a bully gets control, whether it's a Karen, a board, or just a system that's gone unchecked, sometimes you've got to dig in, know your rights, and not back down. So what would you have done? Give in, pack up, or stand your ground, even if it meant risking everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Ever had a run-in with an HOA or a power-tripping neighbor? Share your story. I know I'm not alone. And if you're dealing with your own, Karen, just remember, documentation, backbone, and a willingness to call their bluff will get you farther than you think. Because in the end, your land, your rights, and your peace of mind, they're worth fighting for.